Long ago, nestled deep within a small, quiet village, there was a mysterious forest called Whispering Woods. During the day, the woods seemed like any other forest, filled with towering trees, soft sunlight, and birds chirping. But once the sun began to set, everything changed. Strange things began to happen. The villagers spoke of an ancient legend passed down through generations. It was said that the forest was haunted by spirits who whispered secrets to each other, secrets from long ago. If you walked through Whispering Woods at night, they warned, you'd hear voices calling to you, luring you deeper, where no one had ever returned. No one dared to enter the forest after dark, except, that is, for a young man named Tom. Tom was the village's most curious soul, and he loved a good mystery. He had heard the stories countless times but never believed them. They're just tales to scare children, he would say with a laugh. One chilly autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Tom decided it was finally time to see for himself. Armed with only a flashlight and his dog, Max, he made his way toward the edge of Whispering Woods. The sky was turning purple, and a thick mist rose from the ground, blanketing the path ahead. As he took his first steps into the woods, Tom noticed an eerie silence fall over the forest. No birds, no wind. Even Max seemed uneasy, his tail low and his ears perked up. But Tom shook off the feeling, whispering, "There's nothing to be afraid of." As he walked deeper, the mist grew thicker, swirling around him until he could barely see a few steps ahead. That's when he heard it, a faint, low whisper. It was soft at first, just a murmur in the distance, like the wind brushing through leaves. But as he walked, the whispers grew louder, almost like voices speaking to each other. "Turn back. Leave this place." The words were barely audible, but sent a chill down his spine. Tom laughed nervously. "It's just the wind." But even as he spoke, his voice sounded shaky. Max whimpered, and Tom felt an uneasy prickling at the back of his neck, as though he were being watched. "Who's there?" he called out. But the only answer was silence. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw something, a shadow moving between the trees, too fast to be a person, too large to be an animal. Suddenly a twig snapped nearby. Tom spun around, shining his flashlight, but there was nothing there, just the swirling mist and shadows cast by his own light. He tried to keep moving, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. It felt as if the voices were coming from all around him, filling his ears, growing clearer by the second. Heart pounding, Tom tried to find the path back, but everything looked different. The mist seemed to shift and thicken, blocking the way out. He was lost. Panicking, he called Max, who was now pulling him back in the opposite direction, barking frantically. That's when Tom noticed a faint, cold hand pressed down on his shoulder. He froze, unable to move, his skin tingling with fear. Slowly he turned his head, only to come face to face with an old woman. She looked ancient, her skin as pale as the fog, her eyes dark and empty, yet somehow glowing. "What brings you here, young man?" she asked in a voice that was barely more than a whisper, yet filled with an unnatural echo. Tom stammered. I didn't believe the stories. I wanted to see for myself." The woman's mouth twisted into a smile that sent a fresh wave of fear through him. "The stories are real," she said softly, "and you have seen too much." Her hand reached toward his face, cold as ice, and Tom felt the world begin to spin. Panic took over. Grabbing Max, he began to run blindly, the shadows following close behind. The whispers grew louder, twisting and blending together into a single voice. "You must never return." At last he stumbled out of the forest, collapsing at the edge of the village. When he looked back, he saw the shadowy figures standing at the tree line, watching him, and he heard a final whisper carried on the wind. The forest keeps its secrets. From that night on, Tom never spoke of what he had seen, and he warned anyone who would listen, if you hear the whispers, turn back. For once you know the forest's secrets, it will never let you forget. To this day, the villagers say that on misty nights, if you stand close enough, you can still hear the voices calling from whispering woods. But only the foolish wander in after dark.